Now calling the joint budget and finance committee meeting and committee of the whole meeting to order is Monday, November 25th. Committee members, have you had a chance to look at the minutes from the last meeting? Is there a motion for approval?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye, the minutes from the last meeting have passed. Next is consideration of the consent agenda. Councilors, do you have any items you would like to place on consent?
Yes.
Madam Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Chair. These are the items that are being submitted for consent. Item number 5 and number 7 on page 2.
I'm sorry, committee members. Items 7 and 8 are pulled. They were already passed on the council agenda weeks ago.
Okay. So I'll start over. That's okay. Item 5 on page 2. Item 9 on page 3. Item 13 on page 5. And item 15 on page 6. And that's it.
Okay, Councilor Abbott? Do you have any items you'd like to place on consent? Or are you? Yes, yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, that's fine with me.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I have two things that the administration wants to remove. Item number 6 on page 2,
Okay.
and item number 16 on page 6.
Okay.
We'll resubmit number 16 to a future day.
You said what?
16 on page 6.
You
We'll-
said something after that.
We'll submit it to another agenda. It's not ready.
Okay, gotcha.
And I left
Yes.
off item 11.
Okay, and that's item 11. Okay. So that's items,
16, was there something?
they took it off.
Off?
It's not ready.
Good.
It's removed, okay.
I'll bring them up later.
So the items on consent are items 5 and items 6 and 7 are removed on page 2. Item 8 is removed on page 3 and item 9 is on consent. Page 4, item 11 is on consent. Page 5, item 13 is on consent. Page 6, item 15 is on consent, and administration withdrew item number 16 on page 6, and that's it. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. The consent agenda has passed. If your item was placed on the consent agenda, you may enjoy the rest of your day. Otherwise, we will go to item number 4. This is an agreement with the Daniel Payne Legacy Village Foundation, under which they will expand their meal subscription service program to allow a Birmingham-based household to subscribe and receive 32 servings / meals per month by paying a subscription fee. The city will contribute towards 1 year of service for 100 families and the distribution of 38,400 meals. The city will provide funding received under the ARPA funding for a term of 1 year in amount not to exceed $230,000.
Move the item.
Second.
Okay, Chief?
Can we just delay? I don't see Mr. Hatcher. I'm trying to get him on the phone.
Okay, that's fine. We'll table the item. Okay, all right. Next item is item number 10. This is an agreement between the city and Birmingham Property Group in an amount not to exceed $460,000, under which Birmingham Property Group will provide services to the city by funding its Pathway to Home Ownership program, under which it will convert tenants into homeowners through a structured process, home ownership assistance, which will revitalize neighborhoods and promote community stability through the rehab of 4 homes over a 12-year period in the Fountain Heights and Druid Hills area.
Move the item.
Second.
Good afternoon. We can't hear you. No.
It's not on.
Gotta cut it on.
There
There it is.
Okay.
Corey.
Voila, we got it. Corey Stallworth, I serve as Senior Deputy Director in Community Development. And so the item before you is to provide subsidy to support 4 houses in the Druid Hills and Fountain Heights community. And so this entity is actually a subsidiary of Blight Free Birmingham. So you all may know that name. They've been doing some revitalization in the North Birmingham community. And so we're seeking to partner with them to do the 4 houses, and these will be rehabs of 4 homes that were purchased by the Land Bank Authority. And so it is a lease to purchase program, which is very different from what we've been doing, but another good way of working with individuals towards home ownership and giving them the opportunity to lease while we work on, things like credit and even gainful employment so that they can purchase the homes.
Okay, perfect. Committee members, do you have any questions? Madam Pro Tem?
I just
Council
have,
Abbott?
okay, so the land bank has acquired the houses and they can be saved, so Blight Free Birmingham's going to save them. And is $460,000 all it's going to cost, or are there other contributors to the project?
Yes, so Blight Free will be contributing close to another $400,000 because it's going to take around $800,000 to do these homes. We're looking at investing about $200,000 a pop, a house, actually.
So the houses will cost $200,000 when they're finished, or they'll be rehabbed each with $200,000 worth of improvements?
Yes, that's the rehab. That's how much we'll be investing in the rehab.
And then do we have any idea what they will be sold for when the person rents them, rent to own?
No, we haven't got to that level of detail yet. Of course, it'll be with the market, we'll detail as well as looking at the income of the individual buyer. And so the idea, of course, is not for the folks to rent the houses for 5 and 10 years. Is really to work with them over like a 2-year period to get them to a point where they can purchase the home. But we haven't really settled in on what those prices will be specifically, but it will be in alignment with what we typically do, which we normally stay below 215,000 or below has been our trend in sales in the past.
And one last question, maybe, is are these homes selected from the inventory of the land bank based on their age or their condition or the possibility that anybody would want to live there? Or how do you choose from the multiplicity, I assume, of houses that the land bank has?
So in my conversations with them, they really wanted to be in an area where they could concentrate the homes. So finding homes that are somewhat contiguous if there are land bank homes on a certain street. So that's kind of where they start in. And then zooming in on homes that could be saved because there are land bank properties that cannot be saved and they may be more ideal for new construction. And so that's kind of how they do the assessments of where they would like to land.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Madam Pro Tem?
Yes, thank you. Is this the first time, is this the first type of this project where you're doing the lease to own with the rehab? Is this the first one?
Yes, this is the first.
Okay, so this will sort of be a test?
Yes, so this will be a pilot. Of course, it's been done in other areas, but this will be the first time that we do it. And so just want to make sure that, we understand all the parameters and things that go with it, because there's a lot of wraparound support that's a part of it too, and walking the individual through particular processes. So this will be a pilot and hopefully something that we could expand.
Okay. And who will actually be performing the financial literacy training or working with the tenants to ensure that this will sustain and they'll be able to eventually buy the home?
Is that on yours? Let's see.
I guess my question is really just, is it a separate company or is it someone that's in that?
Yes, it is a
business?
third party, but
Okay.
the name of that partner slips me
Okay.
right now. But it is a third party, a local third party.
My concern was just that someone that was already in that business, has the tools to be able to convey that information to them.
Yes, and Blight Free will coordinate
Okay.
with all of those partners. These are existing partners that they have already.
Perfect. And so we're expecting to spend about 200,000 per home to rehab.
That's a mixture between the money that we're seeking today, the 400,000.
And
So
what
they
they're
will
gonna
invest
put
100,000 of that in each house, and then they will match 100,000 in each house.
Okay.
So it'll be 50-50 match
Okay,
from both
okay.
partners.
And I know you haven't decided the sale price, but you're trying to keep them affordable, right? And I was just wondering what the comps are. Have you thought about what the comps are within that area, or you expect this to bring some of the value up by doing these rehabs?
Yes, this will bring some of the values up. Of course, the land bank has started building in Fountain Heights, so that will be a precedence there. I think theirs are around about 220,000, somewhere around there. But as far as rehabs goes, of course, the market is increasing in that area. So I've been seeing just on Zillow homes that are priced already at 150,000, and I would call it a D-grade renovation. And so this will be able to help create a market while still making sure that the properties are affordable, because we're still trying to house that person that is 80% of the AMI below. So salaries of a family of four at about $70,000 or $67,000 a year.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Council members, do you have any questions? Mr. President?
Yeah, so, I know with our partnership with NCRC Growth, the subsidy for those homes is about roughly 80,000, per home. So, and those are new construction, of course, so you don't, have the same level of complication. But I'm just wondering, is any part of the agreement, as part of the sale of the property, those funds go into, a fund to sort of sustain the initiative, or, is it just us trying to make the investment to buy down the cost?
Yes.
And then increase the, value of homes in the surrounding area? Is that the strategy? The
Yeah,
latter?
so this goes directly to the construction costs and also helping to make sure we can buy down the cost to make it affordable to the owner. And so it doesn't go into well, of course, the proceeds that they make will go into revolving fund for Blight Free to continue, or Birmingham Property to continue this work.
Okay, and then second question is like, what percentage of the total, and I know this is not to exceed 460,000, what percentage of the total are administrative fees for Blight Free Birmingham?
Yeah, so there's a developer fee of 15%, which that's typical, 12 to 15%, at about $60,000.
Okay, and what's the term of the project? So, assuming this contract, this agreement is executed, when would it start and when would it conclude?
Yeah, so hopefully this will be something that we can get executed in January, get through all our processes, get our resolutions and all of that. And then they will have a 12-month period to rehab the home. So it can go a little faster than the new construction.
Okay. What happens at the end of the project period if those homes have not been purchased or leased to purchase? What if they're not under contract at the end of the term?
So I'm not sure if OCA is here or Chris, that knows what the clawbacks are in that agreement as it relates to the ARPA funding.
Hey, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Really and truly, there are no clawback provisions for this particular activity. The goal is to rehab the homes, and as long as, if they're rehabbed prior to the end of the funds, ARPA funds are expended prior to the expenditure deadline, then we don't have any clawback provisions. As far as the sale of the properties, that will be in the agreement that they must, meet all the ARPA, requirements for sale for low to moderate income homes. So we're gonna try to keep it affordable.
Would the properties remain under the ownership of the Land Bank Authority until they're under contract with a purchaser? So the Land Bank owns the properties right now, right?
No, so they've acquired the properties through the land bank. So the properties will be, with Blight Free, so Blight Free acquired those. So they actually will own them outright.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councilor Clark?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of comments, because, I like the project and the idea of it. I think it's great to wrap around people and give them a chance to experience living in the home while they're preparing to purchase it. Having counseled people in this situation before, I would just suggest that the sales price, I know someone has asked about the sales price, but that the person moving in knows what the price is. And it may have to escalate, have an escalator, like if they buy in year one, if they buy in year two, or after year two. Because it's hard when you're counseling them to hit a moving target. You don't really know, if you don't know the price, it's hard.
Yeah,
And
they
we've
will
done-
know the price,
Going
once
in.
they lease it, yes.
Yeah.
So once the house is rehabbed and leased, they will know the price, and then a certain percentage of what they're paying on their rent will go towards an escrow account.
Okay.
For when they get ready to purchase the home.
And then the other thing is, I know for a long time it's been cheaper to purchase than to rent. But now it might be cheaper to rent than to purchase. So I think you may want to set the rent rates so that there's an actual advantage to buying. You know what I mean? So that's all I have to say about that.
And so
because-
we will parallel the rents along with the home program maximum allowable rents to make sure that it is, favorable, to, LMI individuals. And so we try to pattern this, even though we're using the ARP funding, we try to pattern it after the home program requirements.
Yeah. Okay, well, I've seen someone's monthly expenses go up several $100s for buying, and that's just, that creates like a burden. It's like, hey, you need to buy this house within 3 years, but then your monthly expenses are actually going to go up. So I feel like in my particular situation, if the rents have been set higher, and I don't know if they were constrained by the HUD maximums, or if the sale price had been lower or had been bought down more, at least, either so it's flat or a little more advantageous to purchase, a little more incentive in your monthly expenses. Those are just some hard lessons learned, so wanted to share those.
Thank you.
Thank you for your insight. Anyone else? Councilor Williams, Councilor Tate? Okay.
Thank you, Madam President. Corey, Megan, always good to see you too. When is the timeline set for this to start, Corey?
So hopefully we'll have the contract executed in January and break ground towards the end of January. And it will be a 12-month construction period.
Okay. And so did I hear you say you were doing, this project is also being implemented in North Birmingham as well?
So Druid Hills and Fountain Heights are the communities that they're targeting for this first pilot.
Okay. Still District 9.
Yes.
Always look forward to the good work you two do. Thank you so kindly.
Thank you.
Okay, Council Abbott.
Okay, so the people are gonna rent the houses for 3 years and then they're supposed to buy them. What happens if they can't?
So,
Like, something happened and they lost their job and got a lower paying job, so now they can't afford to buy the house. What happens to the person, the deal? Do they get an extension, or how does that work?
So yeah, they're prepared to work with the tenant. If there are issues, there can be extensions, there can be work plans, but there is a point in time where there has to be a cutoff period. And so they're aware of that too, and aware of how to work with other partners if that tenant needs to relocate, if they're never in a position to buy the home. But there are some support and mechanisms built in place where they can be provided extension and further case management to help them.
And so the houses would be maintained by Blight Free Birmingham for 3 years, so they would do all the maintenance, and then if the person buys the house, suddenly it's all on them. So are they gonna get some training so that they know that if you don't fix the leak in the roof, your house is gonna cave in?
Yes, so that is the important part of this program, and so looking forward to seeing the education and training that'll be a part of this. So while they're staying in the house, they'll begin the education and training of what you just said, filters, gutters, all of those things that come with maintaining a house. So once it's transferred to them, they would already know how to do the basic maintenance, even education on home warranties, all of those things that most folks may not know when they purchase a house.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Thank you, that was all, thank you.
Madam Pro Tem, do you have anything else? I have a question. So with the developer fee, is that per house or just one? Is that per house?
No, that's for the entire project,
Okay,
so
good,
60,000 for the entire project.
Okay. And then with this program, are they gonna work with any banks maybe to help with people with down payment assistance? Or is there any program like that? What else for home ownership assistance? Is there like classes?
Yeah, so
Are there
there will
classes?
be home buying counseling, of course, partnering with our Department of Neighborhood Housing Services. That will be the entryway into down payment assistance. And so there's another realm of counseling and support there where they could get the $10,000. As well as we already have a suite of banking partners that can match the funding or exceed the $10,000 that we bring to the table. And so we like to just make sure that we're using the resources that are already in place and not really duplicating. So we're going to connect those folks with neighborhood housing services to go through that process.
Oh, that's awesome, because usually the down payment is what prevents a lot of people from
Yes.
buying a house, especially if you have student loans or other debt. So I'm excited to see that. Okay. Yes, Mr. President.
So for any of the programs like this, because we have multiple initiatives where we're trying to help people get into home ownership, right? For this or other programs that the city of Birmingham is supporting, can qualifying city employees, from an AMI perspective, if a city employee qualifies in terms of AMI, are they also eligible to participate in this, or other projects?
Yes, so as far as like being a participant in either purchasing the house, yes, or renting the house, yes. As it relates to our down payment assistance program, they can also participate in that, but they cannot receive the $10,000 from our CDBG funding directly. They will only be able to participate in the funding that is matched from our banking partners. So instead of the $20,000, they may be restricted to just $10,000 from our banking partners.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Well, there's been a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. The aye passes. Thank you, guys. We're going to go back to item number 4. This is the Daniel Payne Legacy Village Foundation item. So Chief, okay.
Chris Hatcher come up. Yeah, did on the first one.
Good afternoon again.
Good afternoon.
All right. Chris Hatcher, Chief Community Planner, City of Birmingham. I have Katie Davis and Brandon Cleveland Katie is serving as a consultant with the City of Birmingham, and Brandon is with Daniel Payne Legacy. I have them here to speak to the project, and if you have any questions regarding ARPA and ARPA-related requirements, then I'll address those. Thank you.
Gotcha, okay. Brenda, can you tell us a little bit more about the project or anything else you want us to know?
Yes, and good afternoon to you all. So Daniel Payne Legacy Village Foundation, we are the 501c3 organization for the 9th Episcopal District for the African Methodist Episcopal Church for the state of Alabama. We are led by Bishop McAllister and Supervisor McAllister. Our mission is simple, which is to foster community growth through education, economics, technology, and wellness. And so we do that in a myriad of services. Presently, we have Daniel's Store, which is a community grocery store we launched this summer, as well as we'll be launching Daniel's Cafe, as well out of the Daniel Payne Community Plaza where we operate. Inside the plaza, we also have a public charter school that operates and several other programs as well. So Daniel's meal subscription model is a additive to our food service program model. And so what we plan to do is launch out into 13% of the city's population between Inslee, North Birmingham, and Pratt, and to support 100 households in this pilot to provide them meals similar to what you receive if you were subscribing to HelloFresh, Blue Apron, and that type of method. So we also have Daniel's Pantry. We've been doing this type of process at no cost for a number of years. And so we're looking to get into a sustainability model for the citizens of Birmingham, and this is the iteration for that.
Okay, perfect. Councilor Abbott, do you have any questions?
Well, I do. So this subscription service is only available to people in North Birmingham and Pratt?
Presently, it's a pilot. We want to make sure we get it right coming out the gate, so to speak. So we're focused, our service area focuses on the 13% of the city's population, which brings about close to 30,000 residents. And so ideally, we would be able to scale that up to get to 10%. But before we do that, we want to make sure these first 100 residents in the city are able to adequately participate in the program and we can get the kinks out of it. Because again, we've been doing this at no cost for over 2+ years. So this December, we'll be celebrating distributing 50,000 meals with this type of model. But we're going to be tracking some additional information. But yes, it is to those 3 of the 23 communities in the city.
Okay, and do the people come and pick up the meals
Yes.
every day, or do they pick up a week at a time, or how does that work?
Yes, so they have the opportunity, as we do now, every Friday and Saturday to come pick up the meals. And so they will be able on Fridays and then Saturday before a certain time to come get their meals for the week. And so what they'll be getting is they're going to be getting 8 meals a week. So when you roll that up, that's them getting the 32 meals a month, similar to what you would get when you have a meal subscription plan.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Madam Pro Tem.
Yes, thank you very much. So this particular service, you're targeting 100 families.
Yes.
Are these current families, or are you trying to get new families? You say you already have a subscription program, right, or something?
We have a pantry presently
Okay.
now where we prepare the meals every Friday, and we serve 165 to 200 residents every week. We've been doing that for several years. This, we're going to be taking a new 100 households, and it will be selected through a randomization like a lottery, just to keep it clean for people to be able to put their name in a hat, and we select those names to begin to service those residents.
That was going to be my next question, so thanks for adding that. I wondered, how would they become a part of the program? Yes. So sort of a lottery. And you already said you're going to do 38,000 meals.
Yes.
So the average is what? I'm not good with the math.
So What we're prepared to do is provide 3,200 servings, meals a month, and if you just multiply that over the course of a year, that's where we get our number from.
Okay. And your measure of success here would be just by providing these meals to the families or improving the quality of life for those families with these options?
Additionally, on top of improving the quality of life, we want to get into a scalability model.
Okay.
And so as we've shared, we've been doing this, again, at no cost for several years, but we want to grow this type of model for the citizens in Birmingham. And so we have to have some sustainability triggers in there. This 100 household model is going to allow us to see if we're able to scale up year over year. And so success for us would be not only helping with the quality of life, but being able to add families in the city's footprint.
And are you thinking, I know this is in the Daniel Payne area, but as you succeed, are you thinking of going into other communities within the city? Is that the goal? I hope so.
Yes. Very much so. Presently, the reason we want them to pick up their meals is because the residents are accustomed to that. And so we don't want to disturb that muscle memory that they have. In a progressive world, we'll be able to deliver the meals to the homes, to residents in the city.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Council members, are there any other, Councilor Abbott, do you have another one?
Yeah, I have one more. So are these meals that are ready to eat, or are these packaged foods that you can cook when you get home and make a meal?
Yeah, they are partially prepared, so they will need to be either heated in the oven. You can bring them to temp in the microwave, but they are partially, they're not completely completed.
So are we talking about a whole bunch of styrofoam containers like you take out your lunch? Or
No, Councilman, you're talking about something that is oven safe or microwavable, similar to when you get your meal subscriptions from a HelloFresh or Blue Apron. Those meals you can put directly in the microwave or put directly in the oven. They would be in the similar tins for you to do that.
okay, no meltables. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other council members? Councilor Tate?
Thank you, Madam President. So Brandon, you guys do the selection process for the meals, or the consumer, the household, to get a chance to see what's selected for a meal?
So they will have a card where they get to have choices for their meal for the month.
Okay, perfect, beautiful. Thank you, Brandon.
Brandon, what's the service size? Is this for families of 4 or?
So they're going to come in two separate. So if it's a house of one, it's going to be a serving size when they pick their order
Gotcha,
up.
okay.
It'll be enough for that one person, multiple meals for that one person.
Okay.
And then if it's 2 or more in the house, it's going to be up to 8 meals for that household.
Okay. I was just making sure because, with the subscriptions, you can either get like a whole bunch or, it doesn't really matter how many are in your household. Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Okay. Was there a motion? I don't think so. Okay. Is there a motion?
I move approval.
All in favor say aye. Aye. That item passes. Thank you, guys. Next item is item number 12 on page 4. This is a vendor agreement with Mainline Information Systems to support the city's requirements for hosting and managed services support from an active state of Alabama Finance Department Purchasing Division contract for a period not to exceed 3 years, an amount not to exceed $1,329,000. $1,339,334. Sorry, y'all.
Second.
Hey, good afternoon.
I am Darrell Burrs. I serve the city of Birmingham as the interim CIO IMS department.
Okay, is there anything else we need to know about this? Is this,
They can answer whatever questions you have.
okay, Madam Pro Tem? Do you have any questions?
I guess I just want to know, you said, tell me what this is actually, other than what's written. What are you going to accomplish from this? Is it just to, I see it says to support the city's requirements for hosting and managed services support. So I know there was money set aside for an ERP system. So is this part of that, or is this something separate?
I'm sorry, Madam.
Yes.
It's separate, so I'll let Director Burrows kind of explain the whole process of what's the difference between this and the ERP.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. This is totally different. So currently, our mainframe and our storage resides on premises in the basement of City Hall. So what we're proposing is to to move all of those services to the cloud. That puts us in a total different position in terms of disaster recovery. We currently have DS6800 is unsupported. There are no manufactured parts for it. Our mainframe is unsupported by IBM, but supported by a secondary company. So we're putting ourselves in a position where we're going to offload that to another company, and we'll still be responsible for the day-to-day operations of it.
Okay. And we had some action a few weeks ago, and that was specifically for the mainframe?
Yeah, that was to help get it back up because it went down. And
Okay.
so as Director Burrows said, it's unsupported mainframe. So we had to actually find somebody that supported the operation of the mainframe. So this is to completely move them off the basement and into the cloud so it can be better supported.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Councilor Abbott.
Yeah, I wanted to know what a multi-tenant mainframe as a service is. Does that mean the cloud?
Yes, so multi-tenant means currently we don't have a DR plan for our mainframe. We have it for our open systems, but not for the mainframe. So it'll be two tenants. There will be a location in Florida, and there will be another location, I believe, is in Arizona. So if for some reason we were to lose the data center in Florida, we would continue to run from the mainframe that's located in the cloud in Arizona. So we couldn't possibly have a situation we have now where we do not have any capacity because it's down. We only have one location.
Okay, and the cloud is 100% safe and nobody can hack it?
Yes, ma'am. And these are, our city is about, cyber criminals are highly advanced. They have more people and more time and more money than the city of Birmingham. We lose some other large companies who strictly force on that. They have a lot of people that 24/7, 365, puts us in a significantly better position from a security perspective.
Councilor Abbott, do want to clarify, nothing is 100% safe,
Right.
but this does give us the best chance. So I want to make sure we clarify that.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes,
Yes, well, it will be more safe than we are, so that's an improvement. So when we get this multi-tenant mainframe as a service, then our current mainframe will actually leave the building?
yes, ma'am. We will let's say, leave the building.
Like Elvis.
We'll no longer use it anymore. We'll decommission it.
And then we'll keep it down there as a relic, or
Well, just for you. Yes, ma'am.
just for me? Well, we've been talking about this since Mayor Kincaid was mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
This mainframe's been bouncing around.
Yes, ma'am.
And it keeps on going away, but it doesn't really go away, So I just would like to see it actually go.
Yes, ma'am.
So call me up, let me know when it's leaving, I want to come watch.
Yes, ma'am, I do that.
I'll make a video. That was my only question, just are we going to get rid of that thing finally?
Yes, ma'am.
And it sounds like the answer's yes.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Yeah, we may
can
be able to sell the existing one that we have for cannibalized parts for someone else. So we've done that before, so that'll be an option.
as long as there's no information left in it.
Now, we will make sure that we scrape it for sure.
Melt it down.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilor Clark.
Thank you. I know that when we were working on responding to the threat that we experienced, we were getting advice from a lot of experts in this area. Are we still under contract? Are we following some sort of strategy? Is this a part of a plan that was constructed during that time that we're still following through on?
So yes and yes. Yes and yes. We are part of we're still under contract. There is a plan that we're following through on from the advice of from our advisors. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other council members? Okay, all right, well, there's been a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye, the item passes. Thank you. I think we have two more items. Next item is item number 14. This is a request seeking a budget ordinance to transfer funds totaling $4,000 from Councilor Tate's GL accounts of the following neighborhood association, non-capital accounts: North Pratt, 2,000, Pratt, 1,000, Ansley, 1,000.
Move the item.
Second.
I think we just forgot to put this on consent. Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Okay. There's been a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye, that item passes. Next item is item number 17. This is an agreement with the SWAC, under which SWAC will organize and host the SWAC's 2025, 26, 27, 28, and 29 championship tournaments to include men's and women's track and field at the Crossplex, baseball championship at Rickwood Field, and one other championship tournament in the city. The SWAC championships will create and foster community pride. They will bring jobs and have a significant economic benefit to the city. The city will contribute an amount not to exceed $250,000 for FY years 25, 26, 27, 28, and 29 in financial incentives.
Move the item.
Second.
Chief?
Yeah, Madam Chair, thank you. Madam Chair, council members that are present, this is actually a renewal, but it's also a new contract between the city and SWAC. As you know, the SWAC headquarters is here in Birmingham, and we want to keep and maintain our partnership with SWAC and by having them host different events within the city of Birmingham. The last contract that we had with SWAC was mostly the same thing that was before you, but the only difference was we lost the basketball tournament due to them getting more incentivized by another city. So with our conversations with the SWAC commissioner, he was able to negotiate with me to host the baseball tournament at our newly renovated Rickwood Field. We'll still have our invitational track and field event at the Crossplex, and then they owe us one more championship event. In the past, it's kind of been like a golf tournament, but that's still in negotiation what we can do. So what's before the council is just another 5-year agreement to maintain our relationship with SWAC by hosting different various championships within our city limits.
All right. Council Abbott?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about the new jobs that will be created. What kind of positions will be created due to these events?
Yeah, it depends on what they have to do, depending, just as you noted, when we had the Rickwood Classic, a certain type of build outs that they have to do to kind of do the fan experience. So it could be something as low as a construction job or just them hiring people to maintain and operate the events. Like ticket takers, attendees, concessionaires, things of that nature.
So there'll be either temp jobs or contracted
Correct.
stuff. Okay, thank you.
Madam Pro Tem?
Yes, thank you. My question, and I believe you answered it, I was trying to figure out what do we swap out, because I know that basketball,
Yeah.
they played their last one.
Yeah, we swapped basketball with baseball.
And where was the baseball played before, do you know?
It was I cannot tell you, I'll find
But
out
another
for you.
city?
Yes, it was
I
another
was just
city.
wondering, what's, like the economic impact between basketball versus the baseball? And I was just
I can find that out for you.
Okay,
I
thank
know that Dr. McClellan will be at the council meeting when this will be here, so he can probably
Perfect.
properly answer that.
You're asking to be prepared for that
Yeah,
question.
I will.
All right, thank you, that's it,
Okay.
thanks.
Any other council members? Council Clark?
I think I know the answer, but this is $250 a year for 5 years.
Yes.
Right,
So each event carries a fee. So it'll be divided by basically 3.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, well, there's been a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye, that item pass. Next is old new business. We will hear from Mayor Wolfen about an overview of the city finances and proposed budget amendments for FY '25.
Hey, good afternoon, Madam Chairwoman, committee members, as well as other city councilors.
Thank you.
Those who are yawning too, because yawning is contagious. She totally missed it though, because she's focused. Thank you all for the opportunity to stand before you. A couple of thank you highlights before we get into the presentation. I want to thank the finance department's leadership team and the folk you see seated here and standing led by Diana Bolden. In conjunction with Chaz Mitchell and others, they've been working hard to get this amended budget before you. There are two presentations that kind of blur, kind of weave and flow in between each other today. One is a financial update where we are with our finances, and then the other is the submitted budget. I have some things I want to say related to the amended budget, and so what I'll do now is pass the conversation back to Ms. Bolden as well as Chief Mitchell to give you more of an update as it relates to the big picture of our finances first, before we go into the detail of this proposed amended budget submitted to you.
One quick question. Do you prefer to go through the entire presentation, or are y'all okay with that? They can go through the entire presentation. We save our questions till the end. Okay.
Yeah, whatever's this body's desire. Yes, ma'am.
Go easy on her.
Okay. She's a lot nicer than y'all.
Good afternoon, Council.
Good afternoon.
So I'm Diana Bolden. I serve as the Chief Financial Officer. So the presentation that you have before you is, like the mayor said, it's kind of intertwined between where we are now, where we were last year, and then the amended budget. So on page 3, it's just a few of the highlights of this year's budget. We did propose a cost of living adjustment of 3% for all employees. The merit of 5%, of course, applies to just all eligible employees, and so does the longevity. You have the street paving of, I won't read everything, you all have it, but I will note that the weed abatement from last year has increased by $750,000, demolition $500,000, and sidewalks $800,000. Rolling stock and deferred maintenance stay the same. Traffic calming is $500, yes, and recycling is $300.
Okay.
As far as the revenue, this is for 25. It just kind of gives a summary of the revenue categories, components that we have, which totals to $582 million versus the $557 from last year. And the percentages are over as well. So that's the breakdown of all the revenue categories. The next slide basically gives you 23 actual, 24 unaudited. So I want to make sure that we know that that's unaudited. We basically just started the audit process. So right now we probably would be wrapping up the audit, but with the disruption, we are beginning the audit right now. And then the third column will give you the amended budget for FY25. The next to the last column just kind of compares 23 and 24, and then the last one compares 24 to what we're amending.
Okay. We were gonna wait till they got done, but if wait a minute. All right, do y'all want to stop right now and ask questions, or just checking back in? Okay. Well, we can just wait till we go through the presentation, if you don't mind. Just write a little note. Okay, thank you.
Okay. And the graph on page 7 just basically graphs the information that is located on page 6, the revenue comparison year over year. If I'm going too fast, just slow me down. As far as the expenditures, so we lump these up into different categories instead of line by line items. So on page 9, you just see the personnel costs for each year, debt service, the incentives that we have, our boards and agencies, and then all the other expenditures are just lumped into this final number. And the graph below reflects those items. The page 10 and 11 basically gives all the city departments. So what we did, we showed each city department in their category: general government, public safety, and culture and rec, and just so where we ended 23, where we ended 24, which is unaudited, and then what we're amending for 2025. And again, this basically just gives you the overview of all the amendments on those same categories and the percentages, the percentage breakout. This is a dollar that we like to use to just show where how every dollar is broken down. And this is compared to what's on page 12. So it just shows how every dollar is, what percentage of every dollar is spent on those categories. On the 15, you have the revenue and expenditures, and it's actually just another comparative summary of 23 actual, where we ended 24, and they're unaudited. So those are basically the lumped up categories of the revenue and those same categories of expenditures that were mentioned earlier. And the Birmingham Fund, this is a fund where we have the opportunity to take 5% of what's in the Birmingham Fund. If we need that for each year's budget, we can pull from that fund. So the balance as of 10/31 was 121 million. So for the amended budget, we took the 6 million and applied that to the revenue. And this graph just kind of gives the market values of the Birmingham Fund over the last 3 years per quarter.
Is that it?
I'm sorry?
No, I was just asking, is that it?
Oh, yes, ma'am, that's it.
Okay.
So any questions
Yeah, Mayor
on
Wilson.
that part?
Just on that part? All right, so a couple of things here. We pull out, there's a lot of information just been given to you. There's going to be ample time to read it, and then we'll be here as long as you want us to be for this meeting, so we're in no rush. And so I want to slow it down a little bit because I see your faces. I hear some little murmuring as well. When we wanted to present the submitted budget to each of you, part of the thing we had to do was reconcile some things. And then from that reconciliation, put us in the best position to say, hey, when we submit the submitted budget, the first question that any counselor is going to have is, are our revenues flat, are our revenues up, or are our revenues down? And that dictates what we can actually amend and or engage in the things that are priority, et cetera, et cetera. With that said, for all the numbers in front of you, a very short direct number is that our revenues are up 5%. Chaz, do I have that right? 5%. Our revenues are up 5%. From that, as you can see, if you can pull some of those slides back up, and you go back to the dollar. Actually, before the dollar, because the dollar is expenditures. If you can go back to the one that speaks to revenue, for all the categories of revenue, I'll tell you when to stop. This one right here. The way I see this, everybody, is that when you combine sales tax, occupational tax, and business license tax, if my quick glance math is correct, that's about 77%. 77% of every dollar we collect comes from the combination of our business license, our sales taxes, and occupational taxes. And so this rapport relationship with small businesses, et cetera, is extremely important between city government, our municipality, and our ability to derive taxes and produce services for our citizens we serve, as well as pay our frontline employees who work for us. You see the other breakdown. I want to make this clear about property taxes. Every year there's a question about, oh, you only give $1 million to the school system. I just want to state, as the ad valorem property taxes come in, a significant amount of it is diverted directly to the school system, and we get the remaining. Our remaining is about 39 million and some change. The school system gets about 80 plus million. All right? So for our property taxes we collect, to be very clear, when people see, oh, this is what you're doing to support Birmingham City Schools, what they don't see is what goes, how the ad valorem comes in and makes a beeline directly to the school system without us engaging. Again, that's 80 plus million dollars. So I want to make that note. Now, if you can go back to expenditures, and I'll tell you when to stop. Maybe the dollar is the perfect one. So Chaz and I had this conversation earlier, and some of you all remember that this used to be in the 70 plus cent for city employees. I was like, well, help me out with the math on this. What's going on? Simple answer is our revenues increase, therefore shrinking the percentage for our employees, if that makes sense. Although their cost is going up too, as in our employees' costs are going up, which I'll explain in a minute. Boards and agencies is about 6 cents of every dollar. Debt services is about 4 cents. Economic incentives, as you see, I think we're doing well, that we're not giving away our tax dollars, just 0.2%. And then other is about a quarter, that if need to be explained, can be explained detailed from the professional folk behind me. So then I want to pull back again. I told you we would ebb and flow, and then I'll be quiet. I'm not going to talk long. I think I can respond and or present in most form in Q&A. We talk about this expenditure of the dollar, and we talk about this 63%. I think it's extremely important to break down what's important to us. For all the things we want to see here in the city, it starts with our frontline people. So I think it's extremely important that we show how we're investing in our employees. I appreciate how Diana just sped through it, but 3% cost of living adjustment is no, you're good. I'm being funny. 3% cost of living adjustment is a big deal. When all of our employees didn't get that last year. So I do want to take the time to thank our employees. That 3% cost of living adjustment, as Diana said, is included, is a 5% merit for those employees eligible, as well as longevity pay, again, for those employees eligible. And that longevity pay is based off of years of service, so it's not the same for every city employee. You have those three things. You add on two things that are critically important, which is employees have this question about, well, you're giving me this, but if my insurance goes up, you take it away from me. Well, the good news with those three things added, merit, COLA, as well as longevity pay, the great news is there is no increase in healthcare costs to the employee this year, as well as there's no increase in any pension costs to the employee this year. And so when we talk about salary, benefits, wages, we look at those five categories of COLA, merit, longevity, health insurance, pension. And two of those, no increased costs to the employee out of their pocket. And three of those are more money in our employee's pocket at 3%, 5%, and longevity based on how long you've been here. You then pull out two more things, Madam Chairwoman, and I'm quiet. Neighborhood revitalization is important to all 10 of us because it's important to the residents we serve. So we remain at the number we needed to be because it doesn't matter what format it comes in, it's still the number one driver request, paving streets. So as you see in this amended budget, it's still at $15 million for street paving. Sidewalk queen. Hello, how are you? I'm being funny. But he went from 200,000 to $1 million. And it's not just to her. I think all of us had this conversation pretty intensely the last time we talked about it. So we heard you loud and clear that we would increase investments in a sidewalk out of our general fund budget. Traffic calming, again, is a thing that you all said was important to you. So we doubled it. We went from $250,000 to $500,000. You also said that animal control is extremely important to you. So even though you may not see it here, as you get granular and get into the detail of the information, you'll see that there is more money in animal control for the two things you request, more personnel and more equipment via trucks. So that is in there, although it may not be on your one-sheeter or highlighted, but you said that was a priority as well. What are those other priorities? Oh, yeah, so here's what I've noticed with my own eyes, and then our residents see. Although we've been aggressive every year of tackling blight, what there's been an increase of, as much as we put a dent in it, for the properties that are still standing, because that's a process, we have to engage state, courts, et cetera, you all included. There are more properties that have been burned that are already, eligible for demolition the way we deem it needs to be. So we've increased funding for demolition with the priority citywide on taking care of removing the ones that are burned structures that are beyond repair versus just structures beyond repair, if that makes any sense. So that's part of that increase in that funding, as well as a robust, some being aggressive in weed abatement and what is it, weed abatement? So weed abatement is separate from what Public Works is responsible for as it relates to our city's property. We wanted to make sure that we can do this dance of not deviating from our responsibilities of our properties, and then squeaky wheels of what's private property. How do you engage both? That increased funding allows us to still directly engage our property as well as contractors for our parks, particularly some of our bigger parks, because that needs to be managed, as well as still puts us in the ability not to take away all the resources for that contracting to do private lots that are at a rate that we all can't afford, but still a little bit more money to engage that process. Yes, and the Greenway project is extremely important. There's this, I guess, agreement between city, county, UAB, private sector. So that also enhances some of the, what we define as exits, as well as some of the other properties on right of way as you go through the city. Most of the budget increases you see is embedded in support of the enhances for our employees. So pretty much for the majority of the departments, you will see an increase. But that's also because you got a 3% COLA and you got a 5% merit. For our police department and IMS, those two are the highest increases in departments. But then again, I want to explain this to you in the public. In 2020, and this is where I end and just open it up for questions. We saw two of our biggest hits as it relates to one internally and then one externally. Internally, IMS, you all just had a conversation about it. So I think it's extremely critical as it relates to our ability to guard against cyber attacks, our ability to enhance any technological advances to support the resources our employees need, as well as protect the systems we have. So on top of the employee increase for IMS, a lot of that is additional things to support that department. And then the policing as well. On top of addressing the 16 million, you also see a budget that proposed last year was 115. This year's 124 million. There's some additional things there we want to do to continue to enhance and support public safety. And that starts with investing more in your police as well. Madam Chairwoman, with that, I'll be quiet unless Chaz wants to add anything.
Okay. I know Councilor Clark has been sitting on her note. Okay, well, councilors, I'll start with committee members. Councilor Abbott?
I know you put in $1 million for sidewalks for District 3, but what are you doing for the others?
See, Chaz, let me take some money from debt services.
Just to kind of speak on sidewalks, even though it's $1 million that's allocated for sidewalks, working with BDOT to make sure that we go out to many grants that can kind of offset the $200 million ask that we need for sidewalks. We're still going to be very aggressive in making sure that we find those different type of grants to take care of our needs when it comes to sidewalks. So that's just a drop in the bucket, but we hope that we can kind of turn that 1 million to something bigger so we can kind of alleviate that sidewalk issue.
Well, I'm enthusiastic about that, and I did find some information on the internet about going around trees with our sidewalks and bridging over tree roots with our sidewalks so that we don't have to go through the city cutting down all our trees to accommodate the sidewalk request. There's a lot of creativity out there on the internet. You just have to go look at it. I printed it out for y'all, but my printer wasn't working very well, so I guess I'll just have to email it. But you can go around trees on the city property, and you can go up over tree roots. You don't have to cut down the trees, Mr. Mayor. I'm gonna be watching. I know. Now, the other thing is enforcement. We still have real problems with enforcement. So where is I see planning, engineering, and permits is going up a bit. So is that going to accommodate more people for us to have eyes on the street for all the people doing illegal things all over?
So we heard you all loud and clear on additional resources for code enforcement. And we oblige. We think you're doing a great job. Between PEP and legal, the A-Post people, they're getting it. Two things are happening. The court process is still not the fastest. And the others is, it's just a lot of bad behavior out there. Some people repeat, some people new. But what I can tell you is that I don't think it requires additional people on top of the people you have. If from a system standpoint, you're getting the combination of still going through the process of due process rights and giving people time to voluntarily come into compliance, and they don't, they get an additional court date, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Or new people over here and or repeat people over here that they clean it up and then it gets back again, and then we got to start the process over again for that same person. That's what's happening. Not that there's not enough people doing the work as it relates to enforcement.
Are you sure?
Well, would you like me to repeat what I just said?
Well, what I'm seeing in my neighborhood is people doing all kinds of construction without any permits, unless they just don't post them as required by law.
So again, I think there is some.
And I can't be the person going around catching them. There needs to be somebody whose job it is to catch them.
So they're a combination of two things. We do take, it is the combination of people that go out and assess. I mean, I'll go down to the second floor. They're out every day. They're not in this office. So they're out assessing. But then we have another format where we receive complaints, where we go investigate if a neighbor believes someone does not have a permit. The permit they have, they're doing more beyond the request for that permit grants, or anything of that nature. So yes, you don't have to be the person that go out. But I can tell you with the combination of the team already out, as well as if we don't see it, please call. You're a resident as well. You can call, encourage your neighborhood officers to call, encourage residents to call. They don't have to be the police. You don't have to engage the person. You don't have to try to make a citizen's arrest. Just call and give us detailed information. Those things aren't in conflict with each other. They both can exist, and we will address both with the intensity needed. But what I can tell you is the thread that we see is a lot of people try to escape the dumpster. So you may just say, for this room, I just one thing I'm working on, right? So the homeowner's in on it as well with their contractor. I'm going to do this one thing. Well, this one thing may not require a permit, but the entire time they want you to take the ceilings down, they want you to replace all the windows, they want you to remove the carpet, they want you to do all this stuff. And all this stuff combined does require. So what we got to do is if we believe there's abuse of what you are requesting in your permit, but the work you're doing far exceeds that, how do we engage them? Which we've called a lot of people in the act. So just keep bringing it to us, as well as we'll keep sending people out.
Okay, so on the weekends and at night, when this work is being done, you have people to come out and catch them.
You are aware of people. Is that, do us a favor. If you are aware of an address or work after hours beyond what the permit time says they can do,
Just call Chaz.
no, just, yeah, call us, call 311. Just the system we have in place, please call, email, et cetera, et cetera. Email, call, text, whatever it is.
These people are crafty. They can replace a sewer line in the dark.
I believe you, with their phone flashlight.
Yeah,
Just let us know.
okay. I'm gonna call you
I believe you.
and just wait till I retire. It'll be even more fun.
I'm up anyway.
Good, thank you.
Counselor Clark?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mayor, we're spending 25 cents of every dollar on other. Is that broken down in here?
The expenditure side of other, yeah, that's,
She wants to know the line of what is other.
Other.
We're spending a lot of money on
what
other.
page you on?
It's in your dollar, you know, like when you're showing what's going where, and then
It's orange.
15. You can, 15.
Yeah, so the other is the actual departmental operation budgets. So that's basically how the departments operate.
Okay, so other is operating expenses. Okay, and then, what's our herbicide budget? Because, you know, I've seen our crews ride down the streets and spray right-of-ways and just turn them brown, like dead. And I really don't want to know the herbicide budget, but it's probably considerable. Are we gonna keep doing that practice of spraying stuff and killing it?
Check page 56.
I was being cynical. I know it's probably big, but it's
So
going up.
even though that amount is up, you know, that's more than just spraying like grass. That's like the insects and things that in different departments or different buildings.
Okay,
So we still have that thing where people can call and say, hey, do not spray my yard if it's on a mosquito route. So we still impact that to make sure that that's being done properly.
but I don't mean insecticide. I mean like, you know, when the right-of-ways get cut, a lot of times they follow that with spray that turns it brown.
So we talked about that because I think we said that the retardant was not supposed to kill the grass. So let me follow up with the horticulture and make sure.
Yeah, but it's some brown right-of-ways.
We got you. Let me
Okay.
follow up with that.
All right. And they look very awkward.
Yeah, they sprayed Green Springs Highway.
And Caraway Boulevard.
We got you.
All brown.
We'll just give a whole list to you. Your mic's on.
Just strange for it to be brown.
Yeah. Okay. You good? Madam Pro Tem?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mayor Woodfin. I did have a question about the street paving. 15 million. Last year it was 15, but we bartered and we got the 500,000 to go into code enforcement. So within the street paving, can you direct me into the book? I don't want to get in the weeds, but how much of that does pothole maintenance and pothole repair, does that come out of the street paving budget, or is there a separate line item for
So
that?
it depends. So
Okay.
some of it is in Department of Public Works actual budget that they use to do our own patching. So of the 15 million, 10 is coming out of the general fund and 5 is coming out of the gas tax, fuel tax that we get from the state. So what we do is we allocate the 10 for the overall city street pavement, and we use that other 5 as leverage for grants. Have you noticed that we had more contracts with the county when we do thoroughfares on the different pavement situations, or something that we did with around the zoo, around the turnaround. So those are kind of like for the paving matching projects that we do at ALDOT.
And just want to add, because I try to listen to every word of your questions, all of you, so I can understand what the point you want to pull out of us. I think one of the things you're saying is, hey, you call, or there's 311, et cetera. There's a pothole on Jefferson Avenue on District 7 side, not District 6 side. What happens? Where does that come from? That's Public Works.
Okay, so that's Public Works. Because the reason I ask, I'm just getting a lot of calls in our office when it relates to potholes. And I was just wondering, how does that compare? For example, last year we had 23 segments of streets that were paved in District 7. So out of that 14.5 million, I had 23 streets paved. But I didn't know how that affected potholes in the area because.
So if you look on page 56 of your book, we're going to.
56?
Yeah, we're going to drop ink. We're going to try to give you as much information and detail as you want. I just don't want to talk. Look under 513004, infrastructure paving material, as you see the increase.
Yes,
pH, potholes,
I got you. Okay.
and other materials for, some things are bigger than potholes, right? But
Okay. That helps to answer that question, because I did have just very specific requests from some neighborhoods, and it was if we repaired them once, they come back, now they're back again. So I just didn't know how that's managed and how that affects us money-wise.
We do it internally.
Okay.
The council approved a patching truck probably about a year ago.
Okay.
And it's on the street. So we get those requests from 301, and they go out and fix it.
Okay.
and sometimes, honestly, from a weather standpoint, it falls in the same category as paving. You make them go out there and do some work, knowing that you can't completely fix this problem. So over time, it may come back based on the season or the issue is well beyond that pothole and requires a certain segment, if you would, that needs eventual replacement.
That does, so that's helpful to me, thank you. I do want to flip this from what we're spending versus what we're taking in. I did notice permits. There was that delta between, I think, 23 and 24. I was just wondering, what is that attributed to? Because when we talk about permits, what is that revenue generating? That's just me coming down, getting a permit to do. And I'm not sure what page that was reflected on. It may have been some of your comparison. Let me go back a look.
So the permits consist of the construction permits, so when they go down to PEP, and they have a project that they're gonna complete, so they get their permit pulled at that time, and we make sure that they've, basically that they are able to get a permit, first of all. And then,
Here it is, it's on page 6.
and 4 and 5 is in the books at PEP.
Okay, perfect. Of the book, big book.
Of the big
Okay.
book. So then you'll see all the different permits starting on page 4.
There we go.
Building permits.
Thank you. Because I guess my concern was, I realized it was like permits to do work and that type thing. And I was just trying to see, is that reflective of what projects we have, or, what direction do you think we're going with the way that the data is showing?
Yeah, it's a lot of new construction, so excavation is one increase. The second largest increase that just by eyesight is easily mechanical permits.
Okay,
It's two of the largest.
perfect. All right, that's helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. President?
So then flipping through the book, the one thing that I don't see here are the positions for each department.
No, positions are not in.
So in the budget at a glance, we didn't put the breakdown of the positions like we do in the big book. We just, for time's sake, we did the position cost on each department, but we can provide that. We do keep the sheet that you're referring to that's normally in the big budget book at the end of the year. So we hadn't, usually we're done with the audit or close to the end of the audit, and we have all that information in the official operating budget book.
Okay.
As in the amended budget, the only positions that we truly added into the budget were the animal control officers. Everything else stayed the same. So what was adopted back in June or July, those positions are still in the budget. There was no increases in different department budgets for personnel.
Okay,
Part of the sheer time. You're gonna approve a budget ideally in the month of December, right? And
Yeah.
then there's the second half of the fiscal year that ends June 30th, right? So amending, we're still filling positions from July 1, from what you all technically rolled over. And that was presented to you in detail. So as he stated, the new positions are the things you requested, i.e. animal control.
yeah, but, you know, my concern, and this is year in, year out, this has always been the case, that, you know, we have a large number of unfilled positions, and that those unfilled positions, year in, year out, make up a significant portion of what we see in surplus revenue, or budget surplus, mid-year. So, you know, some of the departments are seeing an increase, yet there's a significant number of unfilled positions in those departments. And some of those we know are very challenging to fill. And so, you know, I don't see the point of funding positions that we know are very unlikely to be filled. You know, as far as I'm concerned, positions are very flexible and they can be changed year to year. You know, what the number of positions this year doesn't have any influence on the number of positions next year, as from my point of view. Well, the police department in particular is the one where there's the highest number of vacant positions. I understand that we just, you know, approved a large recruitment and retention package, and that we currently have the largest class in the police academy that we've had in quite a long time. But even at the rate of, you know, 30 new cadets each time we have an academy, or more, double it. You know, if we have 60 per academy, we're not going to fill the number of vacant positions there are in the police department by the end of the fiscal year.
So, a couple of things. I'll go global first. Chaz will correct me if I'm wrong, but we've been doing this a little time together. And I think in that little time where surplus used to be here, in today's time, it's done this every year. Is that fair? It's not this crazy surplus that we've had in the past. Each year that number has shrunk. And I think this is the lowest, the smallest surplus we've had in the last 4 or 5 years. So I think let's note that. Our citizens have made it very clear to us, I mean, you all in the public spaces that I'm in, that they want to see more police. So we're not going to recommend to y'all cut those positions. We're just not going to do that because that's the opposite of what our citizens' request is to us. There's more police. More police presence means do everything necessary to fill those positions.
Okay. From my point of view, our constituents understand the difference between a position and a police officer. So, you know, to me, there's a large gap between a number on a piece of paper and a human being occupying a position. So, you know, again, every year we have these vacant positions that mid-year end up being, you know, that the funding allocated for those positions ends up being surplus, budget surplus, and
There are two more things to note that you need to, in your thought process, include. With the existing officers you have to give overtime. So there's less overtime if the positions are filled. That's one. Two, as you see with us, we continue to make investments, increase investments in technology, right? One is through grants, but at a certain point, on top of the grants, we want to be in a position to make more investments in our general fund to support more technological advances as it relates to cameras, license plate readers, et cetera. But again, I don't want to substitute what I think. I don't want to substitute what I feel versus what the number one request is from our constituents. That is literally more police presence. I don't think it would be beneficial to us to say, because you haven't filled these positions in the past, therefore we should cut those positions. I think we're rounding the curve, and let's not forget, Birmingham is not special. Birmingham is not unique. Any mayor of any mid-sized city engaging their council, any mayor of any large-sized city engaging their council with their budgets hasn't been able to fill those positions. This is a national crisis. This is not Birmingham's own alone. Ability to market, communicate, share, promote that we are hiring, that our police department will be like our fire department, which is like the fire department of all other cities. They fill every position. We want to put our department in the best position to fill every position. And the mayor's office, we don't want to substitute our thoughts on what we think they should do. We want to provide them the resources to execute. But I'm encouraged by the November 19th class that just started last week. I'm encouraged by what we're going to do to enhance communication and opportunity around this March class. I'm encouraged about what, again, happens for the next class. So I think that with the remaining positions, if they're unfilled, then that still puts your officers in a position where overtime is needed. And you have to fund that cost as well. And the ideal place that comes from is in that same budget.
Okay. I have a second question unrelated to the first one.
Listen, sir.
So, Ms. Bolden, maybe you can help me with this. So in the revenue yearly comparison, this is in the packet on page 6. We're down 2.4% in business licenses and up, this is the year-over-year change in that last column. So we're down 2.4% in business licenses and up 12.5% in other categories. And I was just curious whether especially with regard to the other categories, if that's attributable to anything in particular.
So it's attributable to two things. One is the network disruption. We continue to collect revenue, but we did the transition as well, as you all know, from Avenue to HDL. In that transition, we faced a lot of challenges. So the team is actively now still entering things that we received from Avenue that were not placed in the system before the system was interrupted. And now we're playing catch up, so to speak. So that's why basically all these numbers kind of say unaudited, because we're still going through a process. And we have a team working basically overtime to get these in so that we can kind of get to a good place by the end of the year to say that this is where we would have ended 6/30/24.
Okay, so that speaks to the business license. What about the other categories? Is that?
It would be the same with the disruption. we're manually entering things now into HDL because of the conversion.
But
And
for
then the other categories would still be attributable to the disruption.
for it to be up 12.5% over last year?
Well, it's unaudited also. The amended is based on what we think we should be for 25. But the unaudited is basically kind of where we were. So this number could basically go up or down. So this number could actually go up and be closer to 5%. This 12% is a reflection of basically where we proposed the amended budget and where we were
Okay,
at that time.
I got it.
So that gap could close tremendously.
Okay, so it's based on just what the projection is, not
Yes, sir.
actuals?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
I got you.
So we
Thank you.
just want to keep reiterating that those numbers are unaudited, so we should have
Right.
final
I
numbers.
got it.
Yes, please, Madam Chairwoman, Madam Pro Tem, Madam Dean of the Council, who also sits on this committee. The word the unaudited is extremely crucial that you see that word, you hold on to that word, because we have to come back and present the final number when the audit is complete to make sure you have accurate information. That wasn't meant to exclude the other counselors, but we will present this information to all of you, but by way of your Budget and Finance Committee first.
Okay.
I want to add one more thing to that, because the finance team is not doing the numbers in a silo. Like we're using it based off trends, year-over-year comparisons, and talking to our financial advisors. Goodlow is one of our financial advisors that kind of helps shows us trends in different categories. So we kind of overlay everything. So we're not blindly just putting numbers out here on the sheet. Like these are actual number trends that we notice up year-over-year over year.
Okay. Council Williams.
Thank you. The one thing that I think, Chaz, you already addressed, is it would be great to have the personnel numbers in here, because a lot of the changes are just described as personnel services. And so it's hard to actually make sense of this budget without seeing, I understand what you said about there being no additional positions, but when you look at some of these departments have drastic changes in personnel services more so than the others. It's helpful to see how that trends, even if the number of open positions is a constant, which is what you said, with the exception of something else, one department, I think. But it's really hard to make sense of a budget when there's percentage-wise different shifts in every department without seeing how many employees are within that department. There's really actually no way to make sense of the budget.
Totally understand. So 2 points. We will resend it because you already have it, but we'll give it back to you. Just to put it at the top of your queue. That's one. Here's two.
Well, Mr. Mayor, it would need to be updated, because if there is based on some of these changes in personnel services from a dollar figure, we would need to see the number of current employees.
Oh, we'll give it to you. No worries. Please note.
Is different, though,
Please note on every page that you all see, particularly as it starts, when you get deep into the departments on page 21. Just turn to page 21. And it literally goes to, I think it goes all the way to page 55. All department personnel services accounts include 3% cost of living adjustment and merit of 5%. So that is the bulk of the increases you see.
Understood, but without the personnel number, you can't do that math.
Yeah, Councilor Williams, we'll show that, especially show you, because we have the numbers by department who was eligible for a merit increase, and then some departments don't have as many merit employees, so you will see that shift.
That's kind of what
So we'll give you that, yeah.
Yeah, because some departments have different
Correct.
percentage increases and decreases. Just curious, and I don't know if this is like if this is a typo, but it appears that we're spending an obnoxious amount of money on, alarm system. And I know we did a overarching,
Yeah,
well, for example, on page 56, we're spending $185,000 for alarm systems just for Public Works alone. And the power bill is only expected to be $470,000. So a fourth of what we're spending in power is for an alarm system for Public Works. But anyway, each department has their own alarm system allocation, but it appears that there's a, the council passed a master policy.
right. So let's look into that, because when the council passed that thing, Capital Projects took over ownership of all alarm systems, ADS, Johnson Controls. So it should be all under Capital Projects. So we may have to roll all that amount to Capital Projects instead of breaking it out by department, because that department now takes ownership of all of our maintenance agreements when it comes to alarm systems.
Okay, but if you add up each, I hear you.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. But if you add up each alarm system value, we need to look into that.
Yes, sir.
That's
Yeah.
a wild amount of money.
We have a lot of buildings. Just want to let you know.
We might have a lot of buildings, but we could almost hire 20 police officers to sit at the buildings with some of these alarm system values. But anyway, okay, and I'll look for, it's hard for me to actually read the budget without the numbers, so I'll hold most of my questions for that. But Mr. Mayor, I think that you said something to the effect of, well, I guess I wanted clarification on the police department. Is the $16 million that the council voted on, that is not reflected in that increase, so that is separate. So I guess maybe because it's already after 5, maybe that's a discussion for a different day, or maybe even a discussion that we could have in person. Yeah, I just, there's a very large increase there that I just kind of want to know what the plan is for that. All right, thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, Councilor Tate? You don't have anything? Do you have anything? Any questions? No? Okay. Do you have something, Councilor Clark?
Just a couple of quick questions, Mayor. You talked about hearing us on the animal control. How are we investing beyond just funding positions? Are we doing something different operationally?
Possibly.
Okay.
It's probably we're gonna, stagger our steps. I think in partnership with the legislative branch of government. Understand you all are talking to each other on some things you all want to see different through your powers as it relates to ordinances, et cetera. I think if legislative branch goes first, then the executive branch can follow. But I think in talking it out, we can agree on the things you want to, are the things you want, one, are they enforceable, right? As you work through the detail of what you would like to see differently via ordinance, let's have that continued conversation for us to be in the best position to tell you if that's realistic or not, that we can walk it out and enforce the things you want to see. And I think with this, that gets the answer to your question of more things on top of just additional personnel and additional equipment.
Okay, and then training, and then will people be recruited who actually like dogs and want them to be safe? As opposed to just, moving people around within the department. There used to be a joke about sending people to the landfill. There might be one about sending people to animal control. I don't know.
Of course, we have to clear the personnel board first, but trust a
Okay.
team that recruits.
Yeah, because I do think, if we can recruit people who care about animals, it would improve the quality of.
Yeah, but Birmingham suffers from a lot of culture issues. One of the things is there's this extreme amount of responsibility that's placed on the city for bad behavior from adults who have animals. That's not right. That lacks a lot of accountability. We don't necessarily, the 10 of us, want to impose it or force it on people to do what they're responsible for doing. But as I see the appetite of this council related to suggestive language that I've heard you all tell me individually and some collectively, I think you all are willing to hold those who who have animals more accountable for what their responsibility is, and that the onus can't only be on the city government.
Yeah, and so I think as we approve a budget, you know, getting the people in place, but also the community education and the campaigns, you know, cost money. And I would think the same is true for like recycling. I know we've passed out some receptacles, and maybe there'll be some other investments, but I think the community education around those things is going to be huge, and how we invest in those communication campaigns. You know, I would just like to see us, you know, not do communications once, like, you know, when we roll it out, but just have ongoing communications, because I think people need it.
Yeah, I think I think the new trash bins are probably one of the best ways of behavior has to change. Here's the responsibility of city government to over-communicate that with you, and every communication channel that exists for this amount of time to get to the change behavior we all deserve.
Yeah.
Okay, I just have a couple of questions. So with sidewalk repairs, and I mentioned this before, I noticed this from my ARPA funding, it literally was like patches of blocks. So are we gonna repair like the whole sidewalk? Like I think in District 9 and 3, they have like a whole sidewalk they need to repair. Are we gonna do that, or are we just doing bits and pieces of the sidewalk?
So Madam Chairwoman, I would defer to James Fowler, who has similar traffic calming. I think they've created a process for all these requests. And there's this many requests, this much money. So how they prioritize and then what they focus on. I think sidewalks are similar. We today literally know there's about $200 million worth of repairs that are needed separate from any new sidewalks. I trust them with these additional resources to be in a better position to address that. I just don't want to sit here and make up an answer. I think getting to the point of the budget being passed and then saying, well, what's the plan with this additional money, and or detail of how it's going to be. With that simple question, I think he's in the best position to answer it.
Yeah, because I think a list would help us out so we can kind of tell our constituents where the repairs are instead of just kind of, oh, they just repaired the sidewalk, because that's kind of what happened to me, which I'm totally grateful, but I just want to be able to direct constituents so they can actually know we're working. And then the street paving consultant we paid for in, was it 24, 23 budget?
23 budget. They're sitting down with me. I'm getting for the first time I get to see, I think before this week is out,
Okay.
what their actual results are.
So I don't think we would do it with this budget, but how would that affect our street paving list moving forward?
I'll find out tomorrow.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think it will affect it. I think it will just be more data driven, so we know
Okay,
where
gotcha.
the money will actually need to go instead of being complaint driven.
Okay,
So,
gotcha.
yeah, we're getting the demo this week, so everything will be rated. And once we get the clearance from the mayor, we'll be glad to show the council how that works, so we can put a big community outburst or whatever
Yeah.
campaign to let people know this is how we
Yeah.
rate in the streets.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. So we can tell them as well, you know, these streets are the worst. You know, we actually have consulted, not just based off of you riding your car over it. Because if you think that, I think every street would be F. But I think that'll help us out with like a lot of
Yeah,
our
because
street
the
paving
program
requests.
actually has a deferred maintenance schedule on there,
Okay.
so that helps us program and project how our budget should overlay with the streets.
Okay, good. I think those are really just my two main questions, so, anybody else have any additional questions? Okay.
We owe you we'll send you that information back on the personnel piece. And then, like always, questions come. I think between y'all or one of y'all, you know what to do. And we submit this information with the hopes of addressing a couple of things. The combination of your priorities, our community citizens' priorities, and the needs the investments we need to make in our employees on the front line. So, again, grateful for the finance department. Grateful for Chief Mitchell. Grateful for you all too, being patient with us enough to get the amended budget right and present it to you. Took longer than we want, but we needed to make sure we got the best numbers to you.
Okay, Councilor Clark, did you have something? Yeah.
Just, this was for you, Madam Chair, just kind of how, we'll be looking to you to organize us around
I was actually
how
going to
we
ask Mr.
synthesize
President.
this.
I guess, I don't know if have you thought about next steps? Or do we just need to all talk?
I just think we take a moment to digest the information. There's a little bit more coming to us. And then I'm sure, folks will have some additional questions and thoughts. But we'll move as the council feels comfortable.
Can we,
Yeah, I just want to make sure that the council's comfortable, so if you have any additional questions, you can, they
I
can
was
go
about to say,
through.
can we send the
through
Jeff and
Ms.
Cheryl?
Kidd or Jeff, and they can send it to me and copy Camila, and then we'll, if you got a master list of questions, we'll have your answers for them.
Okay, Councilor Clark.
I guess one of the things I was expecting that I'm not really sure we got was like a budget to actual for the budget that we're operating in. I know we did the year-to-year comparison, but just looking at
Of 24 or 25.
the budget year that we're in now.
That started July 1.
That started July 1. So, I mean, we started with last year's budget, but how it's, budget versus actual for the year we're in.
Okay.
I mean, do y'all look at,
The actuals are, I think the actuals are in some of the information that was included, right?
That was the actuals for 24. That's why I was asking if she
okay,
wanted
I
24 or
got you.
25.
saying it's not a budget, it's like the same time the year before, but not, how are we doing in this year, revenue versus projections, funded positions and budgets versus what we've expended, what we've burned through of what we have funded.
Don't we usually do a mid-year review like February?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Because we're so in.
because we don't
the
know how
beginning-
this budget is
Well,
performing.
we're in the early
right?
stages of this current budget, so most of our revenues are collected in December, February, January, and February, a large majority of it. So we won't have a real true number of how our revenues are coming in versus the expenditures that are going out daily outside of our salaries and stuff like that. So for what you're asking, we can produce it, but it won't show you the
It
true
would make,
number.
it would
Wouldn't
make
any
more sense,
Well,
like,
'cause it's
sort
'cause
of a
it's premature.
mid-year budget for the budget we're
Right.
in before we do the amendments. That would make more sense after the end of the year.
Yes.
Okay.
It only makes sense because it has to be that way, not that we don't want it. We would love to give that information. It's just, one, it's not a complete picture, two, it's inaccurate, and three, we haven't collected enough.
Well, I think, like, I hear you, but I think the status of the budget is whatever it is, and the reason why it's off might be because we collect a lot of revenue in December, you know what I mean? Because, I don't know, when I was in when I was in the mayor's office, we did it quarterly, and it just is what it is. It's just a status, it's a
yeah.
snapshot in time.
Some significant challenges this year, right?
Okay.
I think, again, even with this, we're presenting something that's unaudited because we haven't even had a chance to do. But that's because we're manually doing things, which also believes because it's disruption. So which is why we're before you today, right? That we've been behind since March.
Okay.
I think in the ordinary time, what you're asking for is not unreasonable. You say, hey, you say
I just
go.
think we never have gotten it since I've been on the council, like say a reconciliation of the, by quarter of budget versus actual. But anyway, that's okay, because I don't think we're in a position to get it this time. This is the wrong time to push for that, perhaps.
We will continue to work on all available information for you.
Okay.
I would suggest, though, I would suggest you've been patient this long. Let's make sure we get you true information, like the real number, as we continue to manually input. And we've gotten to this point, right? Look how long it took us to get to this point between presenting something in June or not being available to present something to you at the end of May for you to vote on in June to start a new budget July 1. So just think about our normal process, May, and it is now almost the end of November. Not that what you're saying, what all of you are saying, your request, we don't think is unreasonable. I just think this is a weird, very weird year due to the network disruption and how it's gotten us behind.
Okay. Council Abbott.
My question's easy, I think. So that FY 2024 actual unaudited, that is from where?
If I am, Chaz is going to correct me if I'm wrong, but the actual budget that ended June 30th, do I have that correct? So your fiscal, the 24 started July 1 of 2023 and ended June 30th of 2024 has not been audited, y'all. So that's,
Okay, so this is a wild ass guess.
So-
A wild ass guess.
I wouldn't say a wild guess.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't use the word donkey or butt or any of the above. That's not,
So
that's not what we
it's-
just presented to you.
It's what we think happened, but we're not sure.
I-
Is that?
So these are actual numbers that we pull from our accounting system. They're unaudited. That's why we have an audit area that comes behind us and make sure that these numbers are true to form.
Yeah, we didn't say
Okay.
imaginary numbers, Ms. Abbott. I don't even know where that language comes from.
Okay, so, okay.
We have a
so-
third party every year on the
Yeah,
budget
that
committee that
audits
you
us.
support, approves what we put in, whether we put it in manually or the system that we have. A third party organization comes on top of us and makes sure, it's like any accredited organization would do, to make sure that our numbers aren't just made up.
Okay, so
The likelihood of this.
this is as of June
June
30th,
yes.
but, of 2024, but it's,
It's the information we've been able to collect and put in from our own system. What's missing is what we do every year, which is after
The
we put
audit.
that in, we have somebody come in to verify our numbers.
They would take our unaudited numbers and say, these are true. They're now audited.
okay, so I guess I'm having, so these, we think that this is accurate.
To the best of our knowledge, yes.
Even after the network disruption, we think this is accurate, and these numbers are the ones we're sending to the auditor and saying,
Please,
Yes,
please
let-
review our numbers.
look these over.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and let's break this down. We know there were at least, and Chaz, again, correct me if I'm wrong, 75% of this, three out of four quarters of this information came before the network disruption. The network disruption didn't happen until March of 2024. So, yeah, we can stand on what we have here because most of this information started July 1 of 2023.
It just seems like it lasted forever.
No, agreed.
Okay, that was my question.
Hey, anybody else? Okay, Mr. President, do you think the end of next week would be good for a deadline for questions? Or for 2 weeks?
Yes,
Yeah, with
well,
the
yeah,
holiday. I was thinking the end of next week.
end of next week,
Yeah,
so.
so was it December 6th, 7th? Or we could just play it by ear if
That's
not. yeah.
reasonable,
Okay.
you know, with the COLA being, and the merit and the longevity, I'm sure all of our city employees will be putting some pressure on us to bring this to a resolution very quickly. So,
No pressure.
We got you. Okay.
yeah.
All right. Well, if there isn't any additional old and new business, is there a motion for adjournment?
I move for adjournment.
Second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you, guys. Thank you.